Hey, what is up, guys? I am Hippie, and I want to welcome you back to a brand new episode of the Halloween Spooktacular mini-casts. So what we do in these type of things, just in case you missed the last one, is we just kind of hang out and we build some of the mini games that we're going to be playing later on, and we tell some stories and stuff while we're doing it. So the topic I got for today is spooky stories that we either heard or were told um, while we were a kid. So, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I'll start because I have barely anything to say.
Okay, go for it.
Well, my family didn't really, I don't know, they were more of like on the point scaring people.
Yeah,
Like they didn't really tell the stories that much. But my mom, she always told us about how she had a haunted, like her first house she lived in with her mom and stuff was haunted.
yeah,
And she'd always say like, I don't know if she was like legit or if she was just making it up just to scare us, but
yeah,
she'd always say like she always heard chains in the attic and like just like voices talking in her attic because her room was like right up the
yeah,
attic. And then I don't know because I guess it's either I have a really bad memory or it just don't. But like
yeah.
I used to read my own scary books, like
Mm-hmm.
the one that I was telling you about, the
Uh,
stories,
stories that's tell in the dark.
scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that book too. I'm pretty sure we have that book,
Yeah.
but I think that was just probably one of the most popular
Yeah. It was
scary
always in
stories
our
book.
school library.
Yeah, same. And I think we actually got our book from our school library. Did your school ever do those things where they wanted to get newer books in, so they sold their
Oh
other
no,
books?
I accidentally
What?
I accidentally kept the books. Like I
Oh
forgot to
God,
take them back.
that's why they had no books to sell. You stole them all.
Probably.
But our school would do that every once in a while, where they would do this thing where they would sell the old books,
Yeah.
and they would use the money they raised from that to buy new books. So we would always go and buy books because my mom liked us having books, and I think that's probably where we got hours from too. But I don't know why I just went on that long story just to tell you how I got that book. But um,
Yeah.
the cool thing about my family and my mom's stories is my mom has had a crazy life, and she grew up in a crazy place, and she grew up with a crazy family.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've spent the past 2 years during Halloween telling people on YouTube some of the stories. And I know there's a ton of new people now, so I guess I can retell some of them, can I? Um,
Mhm.
oh gosh, I'm gonna give you a couple of stories, and I'm gonna let you pick. You can either pick the story.
Not the foot story.
No, 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 no. You can
Oh, that
either
was
pick the
yours.
story about how an entire school bus of children and the bus driver thought they saw my grandma floating across the road in a white gown holding a candle, hovering a few feet above the ground as she flew. And this was about 40 kids and a bus driver that all said the same thing. Um, there's the story of how uh, my mom thought she had aliens in her house. There is. We have a story actually of the time that there was a person walking around our streets with a shotgun.
I
Um,
think you told me that one.
yeah, there's just, I mean,
You should tell me about the alien one.
so my mom was probably like 10 or so, and she heard something moving around in her room, so she woke up and she saw what was like what she thought was three little figures standing next to her bed, and so she just like freaked out and closed her eyes because she was a little kid and didn't know what to do. And when she eventually woke up the next morning, um, she had no idea what it was, but her door was still locked, and she lived on the second story, so nothing really could have, like, none of her brothers could have went through her window or anything. And thing that she always tells us to, like, I don't know, to add to the story is that at the time she had no idea what aliens were. Like she never heard of
Yeah.
them in stories or never saw any shows with aliens or anything like that. Um, so she said it either came straight from her imagination or there was actually something there that she didn't know what it was. Um, should I tell the time that the crazy person broke into my mom's friend's house and tried to
Oh my
murder
God,
them?
yeah.
Okay, so my mom had these friends that lived a few
Michigan.
miles up the road, and this was back
Oh,
in Michigan.
yeah.
Yeah, it was back in Michigan, but it was a few
Yeah, yeah, it was
miles
in.
up the street from her, and a few miles down the street from them was a mental hospital.
Mhm.
And it was on the news that morning that okay, we have a person who escaped. Um, he killed his family. That's why he's here. Uh, Lock your doors and windows. Don't approach him if you see him. Call the police or call the hospital. And they had both the numbers and then all this stuff and just completely warned people.
Mhm.
And so they didn't really think anything of it. And these people, my mom's friends, were a husband and wife, and the guy was a really, really big dude. He was probably about 400 pounds.
Mhm.
And as they were sleeping, this guy actually breaks into their house, like the mental escape patient. And he breaks into their house and he goes into their kitchen, grabs a knife, goes to their bedroom, and just starts stabbing them.
Yeah.
um, like a lot. And
Mhm.
so they're like putting up their hands to block this guy, and he's just stabbing him in the hands. So the only thing that this guy could do to grab a hold of this guy, because his hands were all beat up now, was to sit on the feller. And since the guy was so skinny and the other guy was so big, he made the guy poop all over his floor. And they called the police and they got the guy. And they got him in there, and people were so like their hands were so stabbed up that neither of them could like ever work again. They were like on disability for the rest of their lives. Um, and the worst part is they said that at the time, I'm assuming this probably isn't how it works now. I'm assuming they'd probably send somebody out to deal with it. But after they got out of the hospital, they had to clean up their house themselves of like this guy's poop and all their blood and
That's so awful.
yeah. So it's a little bit crazy. Um, but yeah, we got a lot of scary stories when we were a kid because my grandma was crazy and wanted to be a witch, and so she was constantly trying to put curses on people, and she was constantly doing these crazy things trying to make her husband think that she'd killed herself, and she was just a legitimately insane woman.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, there was a time when it was in the morning, and so my mom said it was really foggy out because they lived off by Michigan, off by the Great Lakes. So whenever it would get cold and start coming around the time of fall, it would just be extremely foggy to where you could barely see. And the school bus was coming to pick up the kids, and the school bus called the school and said, "We just seen," um, use my grandma's name because it was a really small town, and everybody knew it, and said, "We just seen this lady floating across the street, walking over to an abandoned barn, and she has a candle in her hand." Um, and the school. Oh, I think I made that too high. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did it wrong. Sorry. Um,
Oh.
but the school was like, "Oh, we'll call her." And so they called her and they said, "The school bus just told us this. Just wanted to see what's going on." And she was like, "No, no. I mean, I mean, what am I supposed to? How am I gonna fly? Come on now, you're just being crazy now." So they're like, "Okay," but she was like constantly doing really, really weird crap that just freaked out everybody in her town. So I have a weird family. I could probably
Yeah, he
go on for a
does.
long time. Sorry. I think I made 7 videos last Halloween just on stories from my family. And like there was a story about how people think that my grandfather was killed and his death was covered up and all this really, really crazy stuff. But those are stories for another time, maybe. But that's gonna go ahead and do it though for this episode of the minicast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I have been Hippie, and I will see you guys
Next.